Hi everyone, thanks for joining Let's Talk with Shayna. I'm Shayna and today we're going to be walking through some heatless hairstyles. Now do note that these will work for most hair types, but if you're someone who has super curly hair, you might have a bit of shrinkage, so that's something to keep in mind with this. But I did only pick a few different styles for today. We are going to look at primarily like curly or wavy looks, but if there's anything that you want to see me do, make sure to leave them in the comments and we'll make sure to get those in a part 2 later down the line. So let's get started.
So first we're going to start off with our hair being wet. So either you're just getting out of the shower and your hair's wet from that, or you're like me and have a spray bottle to wet down your hair. You really want to make sure that you're thoroughly getting everywhere, similar as you would as if you were just getting out of the shower, including your roots. And for our first look, we are going to be doing a braid that will in turn give you like a wavy, crimpy hair look once it is all dried. So I personally like to do a center part, but do whatever part it is that you want. I tie off one section of hair just to get it out of the way, and brush through the other section just to make sure I don't get any knots along the way. And I'm just going to put in our 10-in-1 hair revitalizer and our Moroccan argan oil. That oil I do only put on the ends just so that my roots don't get super oily. And then we start to braid. I personally cannot do a French braid on myself. I can do it on other people, but when I end up doing these kinds of braids on myself, they turn into a Dutch braid. So if you're like me, you can definitely do a Dutch braid or you can do a French braid. You could also do a twist, where you're just twisting your hair and adding a little bit as you go. There's lots of different options here, but this one is the Dutch braid. If you want a tutorial for that, definitely leave a comment below and I'd be happy to do that. And now we do the exact same thing on the other side. So that's the 10-in-1 hair revitalizer, the Moroccan argan oil on the ends, and then just braiding it down. I did speed it up just so that you're not watching this slow and painful process. It's not super painful once you get good at it. And then you just tie it off at the end and let it dry. The thing that I love about this specific hair style is I could wear these braids the day before and then the next day have that nice crimpy look. So now that they're dry, we're going to take them out. Now, for this, I would recommend to leave it in for more than 8 hours if your hair is a similar thickness as mine, because I only left it in for about 4, and you can see my hair still kind of looks wet. It will still hold the shape for the most part. I've done this before. But if you're really wanting to make sure that you have that full crimpy look, I would recommend leaving it in for longer than 8 hours just to really assure that your hair is going to hold that crimp look. So that's our first option, a little crimpy look from braids. And for our second option, this one was one of my first times trying this look. It's like a wispy straight kind of hairstyle. So to start off, we are going to take our 10-in-1 hair revitalizer, same as always, and our Moroccan hair oil, and working that through the ends or anywhere that you feel like you need it. Now this one, it does tend to work better with a styling product. I'm using gel. I would recommend sticking with something a little bit lighter, like a mousse, and then just brushing it through to make sure it's evenly getting throughout your entire head of hair. I tied off one section of my hair to keep it out of the way, but all this little ring is like a dollar store pool noodle cut down to the size that I need, and just taped into a circle shape. And then I'm just going to be taking sections of my hair and wrapping it around it. You'll see that I'm pulling it through underneath as well, just to make sure that it's going all the way around, and that's what's going to be giving us our wispy look later. The first side is definitely harder because, as you can see, you do have to hold the noodle with your wrist. This one I would definitely say is more of an advanced style. You could also achieve a similar look using rollers. So if you find that this option isn't accessible to you and your hand dexterity, you can try with rollers instead. So now that we have everything all wrapped up, I do like to go around with a bobby pin just to secure some. Like you can see that my shorter hairs fell in the back, so we're just going to bobby pin those up as well. If you find that you need the noodle lower on your head, you would just have a longer noodle, and then in turn it'll sit lower on your head. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. I did speed it up a little bit just so that you don't have to watch the slow process of this. But once again, if you need it broken down more, definitely feel free to leave a comment and we can do that, no problem. This one, I do find it works better for longer hairstyle, like longer hair types. And then we're just going back in with those bobby pins to make sure nothing's gonna fall out overnight. Now you can see that I did have a silk t-shirt put around my neck before this video started. This is going to be so that we can lock it in for overnight. This is absolutely necessary because this updo, I guess you could call it, does fall out really easily. So I just take that shirt and tie it up around my head for sleeping overnight. And then now we're just going to let it dry. Now that it's mostly dry, it's time to take it out. So this time, this was also just a 6-hour leave-in. I didn't leave it in for the full 8 hours, but all of these hairstyles, you're going to want to be leaving it in until it's fully dry. I'm notorious for letting them out early. As you will see when I take this out, my hair still kind of looks damp-ish, similar as the braids. So once I've taken the bobby pins out, I can just remove that pool noodle. And for this, it takes a little bit of playing around with your hair to get it to sit just the way you want it because it just spent the last 6 to 8 hours up in a pool noodle. Now, I did a few different takes of this. This is before I've brushed out my hair, and you can see since I used gel, it does look a little crunchier, so that's why I do recommend a mousse. But this is what it looks like after I've brushed it out, and I'm really starting to like it now that I've brushed it out. It wasn't my favorite before I did, but once you've brushed it out, it does give you a nice little wispy look. Now, last but not least, this one was on a different day, hence the outfit change. So for this, you're going to put your hair up in a high ponytail. If you're planning on wearing it as like a curly braid, you're going to want to do this ponytail a little bit tighter. But if you're planning on wearing it as your hair down, just do 2 little loops like I just did there. And then parting your ponytail into 2 different sections. So for this next part, you are going to need a cotton scarf, t-shirt, tea towel, whatever you have in your house. I'm using a scarf myself because I like that extra length to wrap it all up at the end. But you're just going to take one section of your ponytail and wrap it around the scarf and tie it off at the end. And you're going to do the exact same to the other side. Now, before this, I did put in the 10-in-1 and the hair oil of my choice, so you can also do that as well. And once you have both sides twisted off and tied off at the end, you're going to take your scarf and wrap it around to make a little bun. Now, I always tie it off, but you can also, like, if you're using something that's a little bit shorter that doesn't have that extra fabric to tie off, you can just use another stretched out ponytail. And then I use the last little bits of the scarf to wrap it and then tie it off one more time. And then I'm going to sleep in this hairstyle. As you can tell, it's really, really messy from my sleeping, tossing and turning. And we would let it dry and just take it out the next morning. Now this one, even though I slept with it in and it was in for over 8 hours, it still wasn't 100% dry. So it is really good to check your specific hair to see how long it takes for your hair to dry. So mine takes a little over 8 hours, so I need to leave it in more than 8 hours, whatever style I'm doing. But now that I've taken it out, you can see that I got a nice little wave there. And then we can take out the main ponytail if I was wearing it down, which I am. But if you wanted to leave it up in like a curly ponytail, that ponytail would just need to be restyled. And then we have our curly locks for the day. It does give you a bit more of like a looser wave, but if you were someone who already had curly hair, that would leave you with a bit more of a tighter curl, just because your hair is naturally ready to do curly styles. So thank you all for joining today. And once again, if you have any specific heatless hairstyles that you want me to try, make sure to leave it in the comments and we'll definitely make a part 2. Thanks again for joining. Bye-bye.